Today we'll be looking at the film There Will Be Blood, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, that stars Daniel Day-Lewis as oil tycoon Daniel Plainview. This film has so many great aspects to it, from the Academy Award-winning acting by Day-Lewis to the Academy Award-winning cinematography. But today we'll be looking at the character depth of Daniel Plainview and also focusing on the music in the film. After doing some research, I came across an article saying that Paul Thomas Anderson based some of Daniel's characteristics on the infamous vampire Dracula. We as an audience can certainly notice this comparison from the very first shot of the film, where we are first introduced to Daniel Plainview shrouded in the darkness of the mine shaft, protected from the sunlight, and his obsessive thirst for oil is like that of a vampire's thirst for blood. This is even reflected in the title change from book to film, from Upton Sinclair's Oil to Anderson's There Will Be Blood. This thirst for oil and greed is ultimately what defines Daniel, like blood defines a vampire, and no other scene in the film demonstrates this thirst and greed than when the oil well catches on fire. Here we see Daniel's son H.W. blasted back as the oil well erupts. As the scene progresses, we can tell that something is wrong with H.W. He then tells Daniel that he cannot hear anything, implying that he is deaf. Daniel seems concerned at first, but must return to the exploding well. Towards the end of the scene, we see Daniel talking to his partner, telling him to not look so miserable. There is a whole ocean of oil under our feet, and I'm the only one who can get to it. The partner is not focused on the oil and instead asks Daniel if H.W. is alright, to which Daniel replies, no, he is not. Just like how oil is beneath the surface and then shows itself in this scene, we see Daniel's true character show up as he is no longer concerned about his son, but the fortune he has just acquired. This greed is ultimately Daniel's downfall, as we see his character forget about everything else in his life besides his oil. Now we will take a look into the music soundtrack used in the film. The music in this film is outstanding as it determines the tone of a scene, creates emotions, and creates tension between characters. The first use of music that we will look at takes place in the same scene of the exploding well. Here the music sets the pace of the scene as we the audience can see that a lot is going on and there is panic among the workers. As you can hear now, the rhythm of the music is fast-paced and somewhat hectic, just as the scene is. The second use of music is when we see an adult H.W. coming to Daniel to talk about their partnership. The music starts off with a rough feel to it, as Daniel is throwing away his last connection with his son. As H.W. is walking away from his father, Daniel has to raise his voice to the point where he is yelling.
From a basket!
The music reinforces this loudness because just as Daniel is getting louder, the music gets louder, until Daniel starts to reminisce about the good times with H.W. Here the music slows down and becomes much more softer to insinuate Daniel's emotions of losing his son for good. The last piece of music we will look at focuses on the tension between Daniel and his half-brother Henry. Here Anderson uses high-pitched strings to create tension, as Daniel suspects Henry is not the man he claims to be. The loud buzzing sound shows how this suspicion eats away at Daniel's brain, with his rage building up until he decides to question Henry. This film has so much depth to it that if I tried to point everything out, it could be a 20-minute video. So I would encourage you to watch the film for its brilliance in acting and cinematography and see if you agree with what I had to say.